improved so much. I played her at the beginning of the year, so I know what I'm up against, and I will just try to do my best again, and I know it's going to be a tough match. I have so much respect for her game. I'm doing a lot of good things. She was just playing much better than me, and I was just waiting for a window where maybe I can get a little bit more aggressive and I can get a point here and there, and got her in trouble. And yeah, I was a bit lucky, a bit played good in a good moment.
Did you catch that? Replay it once more. Because what you just witnessed wasn't a casual fan speaking. That wasn't media commentary. That wasn't a Filipino reporter hunting for uplifting angles. That was the competitor who in 48 hours will step onto that identical court facing Alexandra Eala, lock eyes with her across the baseline, and attempt with every ounce of her being to crush this Miami fairy tale once more. That was her adversary offering genuine praise unprompted, without pause, without any diplomatic hedging or careful word choices. Absorb that reality, because this transcends a simple media moment. This represents the entire tennis universe confirming to you in live time through the actual words of the players blocking Eala's path to the round of 16. That what's unfolding at Miami Open 2026 surpasses anything this tournament has witnessed in its history.
Been such a phenomenon to see the support you've gotten all over the world. Is there any place that surprised you that you were like, wow, I didn't know there were so many Filipinos here?
No, because we are kind of everywhere. Yeah, we are everywhere, I have noticed.
We're dissecting every syllable, every nuance, everything it signifies for Saturday's showdown, for Eala's ranking trajectory, for the tournament landscape, and for the 115 million Filipinos who haven't experienced proper rest since Thursday dawn. Settle in, you must absorb all of this. Let's begin with Thursday, because before Linette uttered one syllable about Eala, before that media session, before that statement, before any of it, Alex Eala accomplished something on Hard Rock Stadium's surface that deserved front-page coverage across every sports media outlet globally. She endured the most grueling match of her entire WTA journey, 3 hours and 20 minutes, battling 38-year-old German warrior Laura Siegemund, positioned 53rd globally, a competitor who's maintained professional status for 20 complete seasons and possesses every conceivable tactical weapon. And this wasn't a comfortable, commanding 3-set victory. This was warfare. A brutal, contentious, physically devastating warfare.
I had to be patient. I'm sorry, the match was so long, I lost my voice. I think patience was key, and waiting for the right moment, you know. Yeah, patience, a lot of patience.
Both competitors lodged complaints with the chair umpire in a tense confrontation. While Eala served at 2-1 in the second frame, Siegemund wandered off after the Filipino star botched her ball toss. Eala objected to Siegemund's deliberate stalling tactics between points, psychological warfare against a competitor who's employed these strategies since before Alex Eala could properly grip a racket. And Eala, just 20 years old, protecting 390 ranking points during the highest stakes tournament of her season, didn't buckle, didn't collapse, didn't allow the mind games to penetrate her focus. Eala had commanded 3-love, 5-4, and 6-5 leads in the opening set. She squandered 4-set opportunities. Then she lost the tiebreaker. The first set vanished. Over an hour and 20 minutes of competition, and she possessed nothing tangible for her efforts. For most players, that marks the instant heads drop, shoulders collapse, crowds fall silent, and opponents detect weakness. But Eala returned and shattered Siegemund's serve early in both the second and third sets. Methodical, effective, merciless. The contest that appeared destined for catastrophe transformed into a declaration. It ranked as the 5th most extensive tour-level battle of the entire 2026 campaign. And she departed the court, stared directly into the camera lens, and inscribed 2 words, déjà vu. She declared in her courtside interview, "It certainly was tight, extremely taxing both physically and mentally, but that represented one of my objectives following last year's tournament to enhance my physical conditioning. And here I stand, fresh as a flower. Fresh as a flower."
It definitely was close, very demanding physically and mentally, but that was one of my goals last year after this tournament, was to improve physically, and here I am, fresh as a flower, so yeah.
Alex's final inquiry ranked 140th globally. Following 3 hours and 20 minutes against a 20-year veteran attempting psychological destabilization throughout. Fresh as a flower, and the critics who had been crafting their Eala lack stamina for extended battles narratives since Indian Wells received a phrase they cannot deploy. You cannot label someone fragile after they endure the season's 5th longest encounter and characterize themselves as fresh as a flower. The WTA footage of her post-match discussion accumulated over 153,000 views and exceeding 9,200 interactions on Facebook during the initial 2 hours. Her match compilation was viewed more than 280,000 times and collected over 10,000 reactions during the first 3 hours. 153,000 views for a post-match interview following a second-round triumph at a tournament where the current world #1 and title defender also competes. The chasm between Alex Eala's digital presence and every other participant at this event is so vast that drawing comparisons seems nearly inappropriate. But this represents the current WTA reality, and this is the environment that Magda Linette entered directly when she defeated Swiatek that identical afternoon. Now let's examine what Linette actually accomplished, because it was extraordinary, and because it explains why Saturday's encounter is the most complex, most perilous, most captivating matchup remaining in the women's bracket. Magda Linette, world number 50, 34 years old, a competitor who had just fallen in the opening round at Indian Wells 2 weeks prior, stepped onto center court at Hard Rock Stadium and defeated Iga Swiatek, 6-time Grand Slam winner, current Wimbledon titlist, the second seed, 1-6, 7-5, 6-3. It marked Swiatek's first opening match defeat at a WTA Tour event across 74 consecutive tournaments, 74, that transcends a streak, that constitutes an empire. And Linette, guided by legendary Agnieszka Radwanska, arguably Poland's greatest modern women's player, just terminated it. At the tournament where Swiatek anticipated confronting the girl who embarrassed her 12 months ago, and finally settling accounts.
Następna piłka. Cały czas w dyscyplinie.
Well, you can see she's competing against the very best here tonight. Didn't need to go that close to the line there.
Swiatek couldn't capitalize. She generated merely 1 break opportunity total across the second and third sets. "I ceased executing anything effectively tactically," she stated. "It simply was a poor match for me in the second and third sets." The second seed eliminated, the marquee rematch cancelled, the draw exploded open. And then Linette positioned herself before the cameras and delivered it. "I'm delighted that Filipinos are gaining tennis exposure." That represents the pivotal moment, and now let's discuss precisely why those 8 words constitute one of the most meaningful statements at this entire tournament. This is where most observers conclude. They broadcast the clip, express "wow, that's wonderful," and proceed onward. But we're not proceeding onward, because those 8 words encompass an entire worldview. And once you comprehend what actually resides within them, you cannot ignore it. Magda Linette is 34 years old. She's maintained professional tennis status since 2009. She's competed at Australian Opens and Wimbledons, and US Opens and Roland Garros. She's witnessed every crowd type, every atmospheric condition, every narrative that professional tennis offers across 17 tour years. She achieved a Grand Slam semi-final. She captured 3 WTA titles. She's performed before partisan Polish crowds, hostile American audiences, indifferent spectators at minor tournaments in nations where tennis barely exists. And she observed what Alex Eala has done to the tennis universe and declared, "I am delighted." Not "she's a talented player," not "it should be an excellent match." Not the diplomatic, meaningless response players provide when attempting to communicate without substance. She expressed delight, genuinely, openly, publicly delighted, that because of this 20-year-old Filipino girl, an entirely fresh nation of people watches the sport that Linette has devoted 17 years of her existence toward. She stated, "I simply had to pursue slightly more. I needed to begin striking somewhat harder too, to pressure her further back, deny her space. But I believe it all commenced with serving somewhat better." That was her tactical analysis of defeating Swiatek. Exact, professional, no celebration, no theatrics, and then, when discussion shifted to her next opponent, she abandoned tactics entirely and led with emotion. That contrast means everything. She remains cold and analytical regarding the biggest victory of her 2026 season, and she's warm and generous concerning the 20-year-old she must defeat Saturday. Because Magda Linette, despite all this moment's pressure, grasps something the critics will never comprehend. Alex Eala isn't merely her opponent. Alex Eala is why this match has significance, why the center court will overflow, why this round of 32 will broadcast into Manila and Dubai and Los Angeles and London living rooms, and everywhere a Filipino flag has been raised, and Linette, who spent 17 years battling for relevance in a sport that can be ruthlessly indifferent to players beyond the top 10, appreciates it, because when you've surrendered everything to a sport and then witnessed a 20-year-old girl from an unexpected country suddenly make that sport matter to 115 million new people, the only genuine response is, I am delighted. But now let's be ruthlessly honest about Saturday's actual meaning, because gratitude is lovely and praise is authentic and the moment is everything. But ultimately, Magda Linette approaches Alex Eala with everything she possesses, and she possesses more than people recognize. Their head-to-head stands at 2-1 favoring Linette. She defeated Eala in Abu Dhabi 2024 7-6, 6-1. She defeated Eala in Nottingham 2025 6-4, 6-3. She understands this game. She sat across from Eala and calculated the angles. She possesses a coach, Agnieszka Radwanska, who can identify tactical weaknesses that most stadium observers would never detect across 100 viewings. She currently trains under former world number 2 Agnieszka Radwanska, among Poland's greatest tennis players ever. And Radwanska constructed her career reading opponents, deconstructing games, discovering the gap between a player's strength and vulnerability, and exploiting it with surgical accuracy. She spent Thursday evening reviewing Eala's Siegemund match, frame by frame. She discovered things. She provided Linette a strategy. Eala reversed the head-to-head in Auckland January 2026, defeating Linette 6-3, 6-2 in the quarterfinals, convincingly dominantly, with scorelines suggesting a player who had completely solved the puzzle. But Miami isn't Auckland. Hard Rock Stadium isn't New Zealand. And Linette, fresh, rested, riding momentum from her season's biggest victory, isn't the same competitor who entered an Auckland court in January. Eala faces Linette as the higher-seeded, higher-ranked player. She's the paper favorite, but she also played 3 hours 20 minutes Thursday. She also had Siegemund push her psychological buttons. She also carries 390 pressure points on her shoulders. Because if she exits here, the drop from world number 29 will be significant and immediate. Eala stated, I'm extremely pleased with how I'm managing everything overall. Many things have changed for me this year, so I believe I'm performing well, maintaining that balance of staying hungry and remaining happy and continuing to work hard. Hungry, happy, working hard. 3 words from a player who understands better than any external analyst can explain exactly what this balancing act demands. She's not pretending pressure doesn't exist. She's not performing invincibility. She's saying, I understand what I must do. I know how to maintain tension between ambition and joy. And I know with every fiber of a career built from the Rafael Nadal Academy to the world's top 30 that I belong here. And then she shared the Tennis Channel story that broke the internet.
I was blowing up, my phone was blowing up, and I tried not to look at it a lot. And Rafa sent me a message, but I saw it like 4 days after.
He was buried in
Yeah,
your DMs.
so I left him undelivered for 4 days, and I almost died. Don't do that, guy, but he was super nice.
She left Rafael Nadal undelivered for 4 days because her phone was so flooded with messages from 115 million Filipinos that a personal message from clay court history's greatest player got buried. And when she finally discovered it and nearly died, as she expressed, he was understanding about it because naturally he was. Because what do you tell a girl who broke the internet so thoroughly that she accidentally ghosted you? She continued. It was such an honor sharing the court with him. He provided me forehand tips and several other minor suggestions. This marks the first time I've ever practiced with him in my life, and it's simply a memory lasting forever. Forehand advice from Rafael Nadal after accidentally leaving him undelivered for 4 days, and then she competed in the longest match of her WTA career and claimed she was fresh as a flower. This is the girl that Magda Linette praised unprompted. This is the girl that 280,000 people watched highlight reels of within 3 hours. This is the girl approaching Saturday's center court with 115 million people's noise behind her. If Eala wins Saturday, she faces a potential 4th-round match against 13th seed Karolina Muchova, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist who eliminated her at last year's US Open. The draw hasn't become easier, it's become harder. Every round features a former top 10 player, a Grand Slam champion, a veteran understanding the game at molecular levels. But that's the thing about Alexandra Eala that numbers cannot capture and head-to-head records cannot measure. She doesn't care who stands across the net. She didn't care that it was Swiatek last year. She didn't care that it was Goff at Indian Wells. She wrote deja vu on the camera after beating Siegemund because returning to Miami, returning to this court, returning to where everything changed, that's not pressure for her. That's home. She expressed it herself. I arrived at Miami last year as a wild card. Now I'm in the 3rd round again, so I'm extremely, extremely happy. and especially having been able to compete at this level today against an amazing fighter, really happy. While defending 390 points during her career's longest match, amid gamesmanship and pressure and an entire nation's hope wait, really happy. And Magda Linette, the woman blocking her path, the woman who just slayed a giant, the woman coached by one of women's tennis history's sharpest minds, observed all this and spoke not one negative word. She declared, "I am delighted that Filipinos are gaining tennis exposure." Saturday, the court fills, flags rise, noise begins, and somewhere within that roar, beneath every chant, inside every banner, across every Filipino face who stayed awake past midnight, or purchased expensive seats, or flew across countries to occupy that stadium, exists the identical message that Linette delivered without anyone requesting it. She belongs here. We always knew it. And now even the opposition confirms it. Go on, Alex, Saturday is yours. The Eala versus Linette match occurs Saturday on center court at the Miami Open. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button immediately, smash the like, ring the bell, because every single time Alexandra Eala steps onto a tennis court in 2026, history unfolds, and Saturday will be no exception.